bring in right now the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, and the founder and the editor of the Free Press, the host of the podcast, Honestly, Barry Weiss. Also with us, the president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton. Jonathan, I'll just start with you and ask you to respond to what you've just witnessed and what we've been witnessing, sadly, for too many days now.
Well, look, Joe and Mika, I'm going to do my best not to break down on the air. It sort of helps. I've heard so many of these stories. I have friends who were killed. I have family hunkered down right now in Ashkelon. I have staff who can't locate members of their family. This is the worst of days. And, you know, I really appreciate what you said before this segment. Like, a lot of people are focusing right now on, was this a military failure? Was this an intelligence failure? Joe, this was a moral failure that we are all accountable for, because Hamas told us again and again and again and again in their charter, in their statements, through their actions, that their goal has never been a two-state solution. It has never been dignity and nationhood for Palestinians. It is the destruction of the Jewish state. It is the murder of Jews. And we have got to stop referring to what happened on Saturday as an attack, as if it was military on military. This was a massacre. This was a slaughter. The appropriate word is medieval, and the appropriate points of comparison are Al-Qaeda and ISIS. So what I have got to ask, you know, and thank God for the Rev and the civil rights groups like the National Urban League and the NAACP, who, thanks to the National Action Network, they stood up. But where are the university presidents who gave clear statements about all these other causes that mattered? Black Lives Matter. Stop AAPI hate. It matters. Stand for Ukraine. It matters. Why are they silent on dead Jews? Why is my inbox empty with messages from CEOs, from major religious movements? Why? Where are they? Thank God for Congress. Thank God for President Biden. Thank God for the European leaders. But this moral failure, this rot, I see it in our civil society right now. And I've got to say, you know, I'm in my office in Midtown on Sunday. We've been working around the clock. And the work that we're doing at ADL pales in comparison to what they're doing in Israel. Let me be clear about that. But I hear this chanting outside our office, and we look down, and there is one of these pro-Hamas protests. And, you know, I don't know if you've seen the documentary Night at the Garden, but in 1939, 20,000 Americans gathered in Madison Square Garden to cheer on Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime. This was after Kristallnacht. This was after they prevented Jews from working. They stole their money. They were beating and murdering them in the street. These protests here in America, these pro-Hamas, pro-terror demonstrations, these are like pro-Nazi things in this country in the 30s. And they will not be remembered well when history looks back, because they are complicit. These accomplices, they are guilty for excusing and for rationalizing the absolutely barbaric irrationality of terror.
Well, and being silent. In the
Even
face
worse,
of
they're
this terror.
speaking out on behalf of terror.
Well, some are, and those who are speaking out on behalf of an organization, as I said before, that has been very clear. This is not just about driving Israel into the sea. Hamas has always been very clear about the fact that their goal is to kill Jews, which the question again and again that must be asked in Israel is why anybody in that government thought that they could somehow strike a deal with the devil, with Hamas. Just like why in this country, administration after administration thinks they can strike a deal with Iran.
Absolutely.
It never works. It never works because you can't negotiate with terrorists. Barry, we spoke yesterday about you coming on the show. You spent your entire day yesterday talking to family members and loved ones like the people we just saw on the screen. I wanted you to come on to tell some of those stories of the heartbreak of the people who are missing, the people who were killed, the people that you've been talking to, the Americans as well, who have suffered tremendous loss through this great tragedy and terror attack.
Since the news broke, I'm on West Coast time, so I came back from a Shabbat dinner on Friday night, and my phone was already blowing up from friends in Israel saying that something terrible had happened. Like so many other people, we're used to hearing terrible news out of Israel, a rocket attack, an escalation from Gaza. But as Jonathan was saying, I'm not sure for people who aren't paying close attention that they understand the scale of what has just occurred here. This is the biggest massacre of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. But unlike the Holocaust, in which the Germans tried to hide their war crimes, it took the Allies, remember, years to uncover all that the Nazis did. Here we have people streaming it on real time, on TikTok, on live stream, and on Instagram. A message just went out to parents all over the state of Israel, begging them to delete the apps from their children's phones because Hamas has warned that it is going to live stream the execution of hostages, and they don't want their children seeing it. I want to tell you just a few stories of some of the people that I've been speaking to in Israel, people who are desperate for their family members to come home. I spoke yesterday morning to Shaked Haran. Shaked is a young mother of two. She is 8 months pregnant with her third child. On Saturday morning, she got a WhatsApp message from her father and from her father on Kibbutz Be'eri. They said that they were in trouble, and they said that they loved her. This woman has 10 members of her family currently missing. Her father, her mother, her sister, her brother-in-law, 3 children. 3 children under the age of 10 are missing. The reason they know that they have not been killed is a friend of the father's kept calling his phone hundreds and hundreds of times. At some point, a voice picks up in Arabic and shouts, "Hostage, hostage, Gaza, Gilad Shalit." And people will remember that Gilad Shalit is the Israeli prisoner, the soldier that was held for more than 4 or 5 years and released in exchange for 1,000 prisoners, which gives you a sense of how Israel thinks of the importance of a single life. Another mother I spoke to, she asked that she remain anonymous because she is so scared that if her name is in public, it will make the lives of her children who are held hostage even worse. She was on the phone with her boys aged 12 and 16 as they hid in a safe room on another kibbutz at the south, a few kilometers from Gaza. And she heard her youngest child, 12 years old, begging not to be taken because he said that he is too young. And she wants the world to know that this is not about an occupation. Israel does not occupy Gaza. It has not occupied Gaza since it pulled out almost a decade ago, ruled by Hamas. She said, these are just teenagers like anyone's teenagers. I am just a mother like any mother who's watching this. I want to tell you about another person, Hirsch Goldberg Polin. He sent a text message to his parents at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning that said, "I love you and I'm sorry." And they haven't heard from him since. They brought a toothbrush and his hair and his pillow to the police station in the hopes that they might find him. He was at the music festival like so many others, like Amit Tal. Someone on my team spoke to Amit Tal yesterday. He hid in a grapefruit grove for hours from the terrorist, and he dug a hole to shove his feet into the earth because he was scared that they would see his bright shoes. he describes what he saw as a slaughterhouse, that him and his friends were like sheep to be slaughtered. We now know that more than 250 bodies have been recovered from that music festival, that terrorists who filmed themselves came on paragliders with automatic rifles to slaughter and maim and mutilate as many people as possible. Women were raped at that music festival next to the dead bodies of their friends. The woman whose story I began with, Shaked Haran, 10% of that kibbutz where her family members were taken from, 10%, it is the literal meaning of the word decimated, were slaughtered. More than 100 bodies have been recovered from that kibbutz. I want to emphasize what Jonathan was saying before. This is not a situation with two sides, with militants versus an army. The two sides in what just happened over the past 72 hours is the side of rapist, barbaric people who we are now learning beheaded babies versus innocent people. That is what is going on here. And anyone who is found cheering, celebrating in the streets of London or Paris or Berlin or New York or Sydney, where they are screaming, "Gas the Jews," they are not cheering for the liberation of the Palestinian people in Gaza who languish under the jackboot of Hamas. They are cheering for barbarism and bloodshed. And we should be absolutely clear about what is going on here.